I'm Ashton Addison from BlockWest Capital for Investment Pitch Media and the Crypto Coin Show. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Tom Howard, the head of business development at PowerTrade. Tom, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for taking the time to come on.
Hey, thanks for having me here, Ashton.
You're very welcome. I'm excited to dive into something that's really interesting, and I think it's going to be huge in cryptocurrency is options and derivatives in cryptocurrency. You know, one of the biggest markets in the world in TradFi. So I would love to, first of all, just kick off our conversation by hearing a little bit about PowerTrade, an overview of the platform and some of the solutions you're driving into the cryptocurrency industry.
Yeah, and it's funny you should bring up that that you expect that options is going to get really big because that's the whole reason that we started PowerTrade. When you look at the traditional options market in equities, it's kind of multiples of magnitudes higher trading volume than spot markets, and it's roughly about half the trading volume of your futures markets, right? Mm-hmm. And so we look at crypto, and we saw in about 2018, the crypto industry really matured when it comes to futures, where previously 2017 and before that was all about spot trading, and that's just normal your normal asset trading. In 2018, people really got turned on to futures and perps, and the futures market really exploded. So, for instance, in the month of I believe March or April, there was about $2 trillion trading volume in the futures market in crypto, which is about more than 10 times the spot market. At the same time, options are still a little bit undiscovered in crypto, and so options traded at about $30 billion trading volume in March. So we kind of expect that from that 30 billion, it's going to go up to about half of the futures market, like it does which would mean you'd have a $2 trillion a month market. So wow. Yeah, this was something that we kind of identified in early 2020, that options is kind of the final frontier of financial primitives in crypto. And so yeah, we started PowerTrade to bring the mature options market to the crypto space. So yeah,
Very cool.
That's what we're up to.
Yeah, it sounds like there's huge growth ahead, and you sound like you're in the right industry. And there's a lot of crypto traders that just haven't touched options derivatives at all. They just stick to either buying Bitcoin or just buying spot, major cap coins. And it would be great if you could just give a little bit of background on, for crypto traders that haven't used options yet in derivatives, what makes it so significant? What's the difference between just buying Bitcoin and buying major cap coins?
Sure, yeah. So there's a couple of things. So options are a tool that you can do a lot of different things with, right? And futures are kind of mostly used for traders to take a very high conviction trade by getting leverage on their capital, right? So if you're trading perps on Bitcoin, maybe instead of just buying a tenth of a Bitcoin, 0.1 Bitcoin with your money, which I think that today is like $5,000, you can take that $5,000, you put it in a futures exchange. So that's basically, if Bitcoin goes up, you're getting 10 times your profits than if you just bought one Bitcoin. Basically gives you the exposure to a whole Bitcoin with the 10th of the price of a Bitcoin. Now, the downside with that is that if it goes, and so there's what happens in the futures market is you have often you have liquidations, which is people have lost that initial principal that they put in, and you have to watch the market. When you're trading on leverage, it's very stressful. You have to watch the market nonstop to make sure that you're not gonna get liquidated or you're not losing too much money. So it works, when it does well, it's great, but when it doesn't do well, it's not. So with options, it's a little bit different. Options gives you essentially, you're buying the right to buy Bitcoin at a certain price by a certain expiration date. And so if you think that Bitcoin's going to 100K by December, you could buy a contract today, say for 60,000. So you have the right to buy Bitcoin at 60,000 until the end of December. And if it does go to 100,000, then you've got a $40,000 profit. And so one of those contracts today, I'd have to check the price. My guess is it's probably going to go for a couple $1,000s. And so you can see you can get those leverage payoffs with options, but if the Bitcoin price goes down before it goes up, you don't have to worry about being liquidated. You just wait until it goes up, and then you can sell your option contract. So it kind of it's a different flavor of leverage trading at its very kind of basic approach. And it takes away that stress of being liquidated versus the futures markets. So that's kind of the I would say that's the most fundamental use case. And then there's a lot other more advanced strategies that you can apply with options as well, which I'm happy to dig into.
Definitely. Thanks for that, Tom. That really does help, I think, shed light. And yeah, there's a reason why a lot of retail traders stick to spot, because with derivatives, it's high reward, but it's also high risk. And most of the time when you're just starting out, there's a good chance that you're going to get liquidated and then lose all of your money. So a lot of people that aren't experienced traders, most people recommend to them just use a little test platform to start, or don't put all your money in leveraging, because it's risky. It's risky. But at the same time, options, as you mentioned, sound really good as well, because you have the option to purchase. You don't actually have to purchase if it doesn't go in your favor, if you're out of the money. So you just lose the contract price, which is not going to be all of your money, which is great. So I would love to get a snapshot from PowerTrade on how long has your team been working on this? Are all of these functions that you talked about live on the platform right now, or where is PowerTrade at?
Yeah, so we actually started this about a year ago. We embarked on this journey, and we've been live and kind of improving the platform the last couple of months, and we're at a point now where we've just released ETH options to go with Bitcoin options, and we have what's called a span margin system, or portfolio margin system. It means that if you're making less risky trade, then you have more kind of leverage on your trading capital. The better you manage your risk, then the less capital you need to open those trades. So it's really useful for more advanced traders that are kind of trading these different strategies. So yeah, we're live on iOS, Android, and we've beta on web, which you can sign up to get early access to the beta. And we are a little bit different than the other markets where kind of price things in all, if you're buying a Bitcoin contract, it's priced in Bitcoin. Everything, which makes it a little bit easier. The price. So we've got these things live right now, and we're soon to be rolling out a full suite of futures, perps, and spot markets to go along with our options markets.
And that's really interesting. You sort of build up credit to not have to risk as much capital if you can prove that you know how to handle it and that you're a good trader. So I like that concept. And I was reading on PowerTrade about capital efficiency. I'm not sure if that's the same thing, or maybe you can talk about capital efficiency and why it's important for traders.
Yeah, sure. So imagine that you have a profitable trade, and it's making you 10% a month or 10% a week, right? But in order to execute on that trade, you need to have half of your money in another exchange in order to hedge, and you have half of the money in exchange to take advantage of this, whatever, an arbitrage or something strategy that you found, right? So on other options platforms, they don't have all of the products. So if you have an options strategy and you need to hedge the price fluctuations in Bitcoin, you have to go do that on another exchange. And so you basically have your capital split in half. So while if you were trading on just one exchange, the profit might be 10% a week. Since you have to split your capital in half, it's actually 5% a week, right? So capital efficiency, essentially, the more you can do in one place, the more essentially trading credit available you have on margin, then the higher rewards you get for each dollar that you have on the exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So the core of what we're doing is bringing all of these different trading products. If you want to trade an option strategy, you can also trade futures and perps and spot on PowerTrade. And if you're trading an option strategy, you'll be able to use your spot positions or your futures positions as collateral to trade options. Mm-hmm. And so that's capital efficiency. You get more ROI per dollar on a single platform.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and that makes sense. And in terms of the amount of products and different kind of derivatives and options available, are you guys pretty in depth with, what kind of options you have on the system?
Yeah, so we're still pretty new. So we just have vanilla Bitcoin and ETH options right now, and we plan to roll out more options markets in the future. So we know that things like Doge are pretty popular, and there's interest in options on Doge. So look out for things like that in the future. But yeah, it's it's basically it's vanilla options on Bitcoin and ETH. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's kind of what you'd find on the equities markets.
Definitely, yeah, and I think that's a great starting point. And for those traders that aren't familiar with leverage, they say stick with Bitcoin and Ethereum if you're gonna do leverage, because once you get to small cap coins, they can move. If something moves 10% or something that doesn't have a lot of liquidity, and you're leveraged, something does a quick 5% dip and you're in 10x, then half your money is gone in a second. So obviously that's gonna it's a higher risk, higher reward, but sometimes the liquidity needs to be there, and you really need to stick to those fundamentals. So with Bitcoin and Ethereum, I think those are great options.
Yep, and the interesting thing about options as well is it's actually, the more you learn about them, the more you actually learn about risk management. So the example I gave in the beginning is using a what's called a call option to essentially get leverage payoff on Bitcoin, right? However, there's more conservative strategies. If you think that, all right, I've got a Bitcoin, but it's not going to go to 100K by the end of September, you can actually go 100K Bitcoin option, and you collect a premium, right? So you can earn more Bitcoin. You just kind of earning a percentage on your Bitcoin by selling these call options. And you've got a Bitcoin. So if it actually does go above 100K, it's offsetting, your Bitcoin is offsetting that payout that you would be owing. So that's called a covered call strategy. And it's a pretty popular way of kind of earning more on your Bitcoin if you want to be a more conservative trader.
Definitely. And yeah, covered call, great example of another trading strategy. And there's so many with options that you really got to do some reading into all the different ways in which you can take strategies and make moves. Now
we actually have we've actually got I'm not sure when this is going to be published, but I think we should have a bunch of educational content up by the time this goes live. So you can go in and learn about these more advanced strategies on Power.trade.
Amazing, great. And I also wanted to touch on, I saw that within the ecosystem, while you're trading, there's also the PowerTrade token that's included in the platform. And I wanted to know, what's the main functionalities besides, what I saw in the platform, and are there other use cases for PowerTrade token? And does it create a sustainable ecosystem moving forward years down the line for everyone that's using the platform?
Yeah, so we look at that. It's called PowerTrade Fuel, and so it's a DAO that's basically a liquidation reserve for right now just PowerTrade, but in the future other and so if you look at an exchange like BitMEX, they've got this insurance fund, and it's massive. It's worth a few $1 billion, right? And the idea there is if liquidations cause traders to go bankrupt, then that fund basically covers the bill so that the winners aren't left holding the bag, right? And so it's a good idea, but you look at that and you kind of think like, okay, but who, there's a bit of a conflict of interest there. Who's in charge of that fund, and who decides whether or not it gets paid out? And what happens if there's just like too much money in that fund? Like, should that money be put to better use? If it's too big, it's way more than the exchange could ever lose. What happens there? And so the Fuel DAO is basically the answer to those problems, where it maintains this liquidation reserve. So it has an agreement with PowerTrade as a DAO that any users who go bankrupt due to not meeting their margin requirements and not being able to be liquidated fast enough, their accounts are covered out of that liquidation reserve. Mm-hmm. And basically, it's all managed by a DAO, and it's all managed by a treasury. In exchange, we are actually paying 25% of our trading fees into the treasury of that DAO. And the DAO basically is in charge of capital. So we have a couple of liquidity mining incentives, and we've got a few that are live now, and some more that are going to be announced in the future that helps get the token in the hands of the users of the community, and in particular in the hands of folks that have shown to have some understanding of risk management, because they're the ones that'll be affected if something goes wrong. So yeah, they'll be the token holders, and they'll be deciding how that liquidation reserve gets used, and what to do with those funds, and how to cover these kind of swan events that happen in crypto.
Definitely, yeah, I think that's a great methodology, and there can be a lot of money in those insurance funds. So to sort of give the hands over to the community and the people who are actually trading on the platform, I think that's a genius idea. So very cool. And we don't have a lot of time, Tom, but I want to look forward to PowerTrade, and you mentioned you're coming out with more education, potentially more trading pairs, more options, things like that. What's the big things that are in store for PowerTrade in the coming months and into next year?
Yeah, so I don't want to tilt our hand too much on some of the things that we're working on, but I would say that the big things that are already public, we've got perps and futures and spot markets rolling out really quite soon, and we'll actually be the first options exchange to have multi-collateral spot markets, multi-collateral spot, futures, perps, and options markets all in one place, and all portfolio margin together. So you're going to get that capital efficiency boost that just hasn't existed in crypto yet. So that's something we're really excited for. And maybe I can drop a little bit of a teaser, but I've been a DeFi geek for quite a while. I founded a community called DeFi Nation in what was it, 2019. So it was way before DeFi was popular, and quite familiar with the space. And so I would say that we're working on things that I think are going to be pretty interesting to the DeFi community. So yeah, some exciting things to look out for.
That's great. And for the viewers that are looking to learn more about PowerTrade and to start using it, exploring some of the options that are available right now, what's the best way for them to get involved?
Yeah, so the easiest starting place is to just go to the website, which is power.trade. We got the .trade domain. And so from there, you can, if you're not a US user, you can download the apps, sign up for the beta. We have in the menu, there's a resources list, so you can learn more about the token if you're interested in the Fuel DAO. I would say that we also have some really interesting content on our YouTube because we worked with Delphi Digital. I don't know if you know them, but they worked with Synthetics and Aave and Axie on their token economics. So we worked with them on designing our Fuel DAO as well. And we've got a really interesting interview on our YouTube channel with them that kind of lays that out. And we're going to have a few more announcements around the Fuel DAO in the coming weeks as well. So yeah, I would say keep up to date there, and also on Twitter we're at HQ.
Sounds great, Tom. I will leave all those links in the description box below. All the best with PowerTrade to you and your team moving forward, and let's follow up in the near future.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Ashton.